Hey YouTube, so got another update. As you can see here, definitely some additional progress has been made on the buggy. I've got the wheels back on it. One thing to note, and I do like pretty much it's sorta-ish ready to drive right now. You could not, you could start the engine and drive it if you really wanted to, but you would have to pull start it because I don't have the battery installed yet. But you can see here, there's the axle that I painted bronze and the rear hub. And honestly, I think that looks pretty freaking good with that red paint. I know it would have looked really good, obviously, just picture the gloss black and the bronze, that works really well together. But then you throw in the red and that works well too. Royal blue, a really bright royal blue would have looked good with this too. But I'd already, when I started building this thing way back in the day, when I bought plans from KJ's site, I'd already made up my mind then to do it in red. I didn't get around to painting those. I was just ready to get the old girl back on her feet and see what she looked like. And I am definitely pleased. I did end up, again, because I was kind of at a crossroads with lights, I did end up buying some more of those really, really nice hinged tube clamps and installed these, I think it's Nylite brand, round Baja style lights. I thought it gave it kind of an old school look. I did have this light bar, wherever I may have placed it, not those, not that one. Oh, there it is. I did have this light bar right here off my truck. And this thing fits like a glove right in this space here. Sits beautifully up in there. And I may still use it one day. But the problem was the mounts that I had made, I've lost the original mounts that went here on each end. The mounts I had, and I initially tacked them into the frame here and then bolted it on. And the light bar is set up probably about an inch or so above that tube. And that was mainly to clear the dashboard, which, comes back up this way behind the light bar. And it looked good. Started driving it and instantly knew I wouldn't be able to use it in that configuration because, and I think it was the mounts that were making the sound, it had an awful, really not high pitch, but not low pitch. It's an odd sounding whistle to it. Somewhere between a howl and a whistle. And it was driving me crazy. So I came home, instantly took the light bar off and snapped the tabs out. So maybe one day I'll use this, but not today. Plus, I was also concerned, since this is both a spot and a floodlight bar, I was genuinely concerned with the glare coming off of the hood. Could be distracting at nighttime, so, it is what it is. Let's ditch it for now. If I did do a light bar, I'll do a slim one just like that, maybe even a curved slim one, and fit it just across that top tube right up there. And just mount it literally to where it's on top, but that's why I would do the slim bar up there. A lot of guys do the double stack bars like this, the fatter ones, like a traditional type of light bar. Obviously this one's too short, but they would set it up here, and to me it's just a little bit too fat looking to sit up there. So I did get the roof back on. My plan is to put the same trim on it that I have on this, that rubber trim. It just looks nicer. It's also gapped up a little bit here, so my plan is to slot these rear screw holes. That way I can kind of, once I get the gasket on it, I can kind of lay it down and smooth it back like that and kind of basically press it out in that direction to get it nice and snug against the top of the cage. But that's how that'll sit. I also plan to get some nice carbon fiber vinyl wrap for a car and wrap the top and the hood portion. Here is the battery that I'm using. It's actually a good bit larger than most of the batteries that I've seen guys using. This one has 340 cold crank amps and looks like 425 cranking amps at 32 degrees. But anyways, your typical riding lawnmower size battery. So it's not tiny, but it's not huge like a car battery either. But I bought this battery box to put that in. And it came with a battery strap to somewhere around here. But I had originally been running it down here. The battery box fits in that location. However, the problem is if you bolted it in here, in this spot, you know, because if right about there, if you bolted it in place, the problem is you can't get the lid off the thing. So you wouldn't be able to really, once you bolted it in place, and the way I was going to do it, I was going to drill some holes in the bottom and put rib nuts into the top of the tube here on the chassis and just run a bolt straight down into it. The problem is you can't get the lid back on or off at that point. So what do? Well, one of the options is you mount it in here sideways. But then you end up dealing with the same problem with the lid not being able to come off because it's caught between the engine and the seat. And now your battery box is sticking out past the frame. Even worse is to mount it out here even further. The lid clears, but now still you're outside of the frame. And it just doesn't look good. So my plan is I'm going to use this dead space here. So the fuel tank originally mounted into these holes here. There was like a couple of brackets for the fuel tank and whatever. But anyway, I'm going to either repurpose those or have thought about repurposing these. So all these do is they hold, you know, obviously my harness in place. Well, I was thinking have some flanges that, you know, a top flange and a bottom flange, so they'll go through both holes. And then you have a plate that drops straight down. And then you have a flat plate that comes out like this. And then this bolts onto that flat plate and sits here just like this, holding the battery, snug up against the back of this tube. And it would also create a gap. So in other words, the box would never touch the actual engine. There would be an air gap between it and the engine for cooling and also for vibration issues. But I'm just going to place it there, but that's kind of how it'll look sitting back there. Not bad. It's filling up some of that dead gap area, and honestly, it just kind of makes it look a little bit cooler. And what I was planning to do here in this area, since now this is some dead space, I can use this for storage. So I was thinking of maybe getting like a small, one of those, you know, small plastic ammo cans. It's kind of comparable to like a 30 cal style ammo can. Get a couple of those, but get them for things like spare belts, spare chain links, wrenches, miscellaneous tools, things like that, like tire patch kits. And you put these here, put one here, and then probably put one on the other side too, just for extra capacity. And then you've got some tools and stuff for the trail. So if you have a problem. One of the things I still need to do is I need to get the caliper, which is sitting right through there. Get that caliper and bolt it back onto the back. And obviously I'm missing my chain. My chain, it's getting a little bit of surface rust on it. And I'm not trying to be picky because I know anything else I put on it'll rust, but I'm also digging this bronze. I thought about, and they're not that expensive, I thought about getting another 525 or 530 chain, and but getting the one that's, you know, gold colored and throwing it on that sprocket. I thought that would look pretty cool. But yeah, so for body panels, I did start out where I had one whole side of this thing done in a body panel. And I hate to sound picky again, but I want the option of running this thing open just like this. Is I love that look. I love the look of having the body panels removed. I also like the look of it with the body panels. So I wanted to keep my options open. Well, I was looking at it and I even started painting it. And I started eyeballing those tabs poking out. I had tabs, you know, poking out here, 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 all over the place on several locations on the tube to hold the body panel on. Hated the look of it. So what I ended up deciding to do is I ended up cutting the tabs completely off. Yeah, completely wasted hours worth of work. But what I ended up deciding to do is my plan is to make my body panels out of 2 to 3 layers thick of Cordura nylon. So, you know, I sew military stuff and I have a pretty decent sewing machine. So I was probably going to make my panels out of that and do some like grommets or something on them and use either bungee cord, like shock cord to hold these in place, or I thought about using Velcro one-wrap straps, sewing them on. That way they're quick to remove and quick to put back on. You know, just some simple, you know, Velcro straps at all 4 corners and then a few spots along the spans. Boom, you're done. And what's cool about that is my idea is to sew molly webbing to the inside of them so I can add pouches on for additional storage. You don't see the pouch from the outside, you just see it on the inside. That way you can also access it. So you can put things like, I don't know, water bottle holder, whatever there, so if you need to hydrate, you got it. Coming back here, I mentioned in the last video the exhaust bracket that I had welded in. That's just a support tab. Rock solid. Like this pipe used to wobble a good bit, and as you were running the engine for like, half hour, whatever, these bolts, because of the strain of this sitting out here combined with the engine vibrating, they would actually loosen themselves. And almost after every run, this exhaust pipe would wobble up and down several inches. And you can see here, see that dent? That was actually showing you an idea of how much this pipe could wobble back and forth, left and right, to actually dent itself on the inside of the cage there, or on the outside of the cage. So that's why I welded this tab in, again, just to get it additional support. I also ended up painting with high temp barbecue paint the pipe through here, and then I also wrapped it in that pretty sweet looking, I think it's a titanium colored wrap. So here's my whip lights. I mentioned them in the last video. I haven't wired them in yet, clearly. Here's the control box, but I've got to figure out how I want to route them through. Probably gonna, route them up and down each side, and then probably along the floor. And I've got some wire protector wrap stuff to put them in, just to make it look a little nicer. But I'm gonna wrap them up, route them on each side of the floor, and then my fuse box is gonna sit right here on this tray, just a fuse panel, and it's just a termination panel like what you would use in a car. Here it is back here. It's just this thing. It's like an all-in-one fuse and relay panel, so it's just a little bit of a slimmer form factor. The next thing I need to do is my dash. This is the part that probably needs the most work. One of the things I did do was I replaced my switches with these covered styles. Not so much from the standpoint they look like something you'd see on a spaceship, but mostly from the fact that if you ever get done running, obviously have this main battery cut off, but you can quickly come up here and test the C to make sure any and all of your accessory lights are off by just simply making sure the covers are in their down position. It's also something that you can see from several feet away just to make sure everything is truly off. But again, the fitting on this dashboard is subpar. Very, very subpar. I'm not going to start over from scratch on this thing. But what I am going to do, the internal metal frame that I made for it, I'm going to add some more cross bracing in, weld in, drill, and press in some more rib nuts in these areas so that this panel here isn't such a floppy mess. And I had made this with a mindset of making this thing, given the ability to come unbolted. Well, the only one thing I'm going to keep with the ability to unbolt is the front panel. And I'm still torn on what to do here. What I think I may do is actually take some of this Bondo body filler here and actually sand down and fill in all these gaps. And probably this leading edge here, I'll put some of this this edge wrap, this binding stuff that I did on the body panels. I'll wrap some of that around that perimeter there, and probably around the outside of this panel as well, since it bolts against there. And yeah, I'll end up doing that, and hopefully that'll make the dash look a little cleaner. And if it does, what I thought about doing is taking some of that same carbon fiber wrap and wrapping this part of the dash up here, and maybe even taking all the instruments out and wrapping this piece. But I don't know, I kind of like the accent of the black against the carbon. So if I did anything, I might actually take this panel out, sand it, and then paint it matte black, just to eliminate any kind of potential sources for glares, because this plastic is a little bit shiny, and just to eliminate any potential source for sun glare coming back. But yep, that's the update on the cart. Hopefully by the next video, it'll be complete and driving. The other thing too, I need to put the floor in this. That's the floor back here, curled up. I just cut it out of one large body panel, or just out of one just big chunk of the body panel material that I bought. And so anyway, I need to, probably should have installed it first before I started reassembling everything, but this thing has enough ground clearance I can easily just hop down there, lay it on, start at the front, and work my way back and just bolt it on as I go. I've already got the rib nuts under the cage, so literally, and the holes in this are drilled. Literally, all I got to do is just align the holes and thread the screw in. So Should be soon that this thing's fully set up and ready to drive. Thanks. Bye.